Eala remains upbeat after early Australian Open exit. Eala shared an uplifting message on social media despite a tough exit from the Australian Open on Monday. The Filipino tennis standout bowed out in the first round of the season's opening Grand Slam after a 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 loss to American Alicia Parks. It marked Eala's main draw debut at the Australian Open. Advertisement. Following the match, Eala posted a reflective note on her Instagram story. "Tough loss today, but dropping this here as a reminder to be happy about living out your dreams. Even if it comes with bad days," she wrote. Despite the singles defeat, Eala's Melbourne campaign continues as she is set to compete in the doubles event alongside Brazil's Ingrid Martins starting Tuesday. Read more. Eala exits Australian Open after overwhelming scenes. Eala remains upbeat after an early Australian Open exit. The Melbourne Sun has a way of telling the truth. It reveals everything: fatigue etched into faces, joy that refuses to hide, and disappointment that tries, unsuccessfully, to stay quiet. On the outer courts of the Australian Open, after the crowd had begun to thin and the shadows stretched longer across the blue surface, Eala packed her racket bag with calm, deliberate movements. The match was over. The tournament, for her, had ended earlier than she hoped. Yet there was no storm in her eyes, only a steady light. Loss, in professional tennis, is a familiar companion. It walks beside even the greatest champions, sharing hotel rooms and long flights, whispering reminders that progress is rarely a straight line. For Eala, still young in years but seasoned in experience, an early Australian Open exit was not a verdict on her future. It was a page, not the whole story. She paused before leaving the court, offering a small wave to the spectators who had stayed. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. Gratitude, after all, is a choice, especially in moments when disappointment would be easier. Eala has always chosen gratitude. The match itself had been a test of patience, of belief, of stamina. There were rallies that stretched like conversations, each shot asking a question, each response demanding precision. There were moments when she found her rhythm, when her left-handed forehand carved angles that drew murmurs of appreciation from the stands. And there were moments when the ball betrayed her by inches, when momentum slipped away like sand through open fingers. But tennis is not only played in the arms and legs. It is played in the mind, in the quiet spaces between points. In those spaces, Eala did not crumble. She adjusted her strings, bounced on her toes, breathed. She kept going. When the final point was decided, the handshake at the net was firm and respectful. Another lesson exchanged, another chapter written. Back at her bench, she took a towel and wiped the sweat from her face, not in frustration, but in acknowledgement of the work done. She had competed. She had learned. That mattered. In the hours after the match, while the headlines focused on who advanced and who fell away, Eala's perspective remained clear. An early exit, she understood, did not erase the months of training that led her here. It did not cancel the early mornings, the aching muscles, the quiet sacrifices made far from home. It did not diminish the pride of representing her country on one of tennis's grandest stages. If anything, it sharpened her hunger. There is something quietly powerful about an athlete who can lose without losing herself. Eala spoke with the tone of someone already looking forward, already cataloging the things she wanted to improve. Footwork under pressure. Serve consistency. Trusting her instincts when the moment tightens. These were not regrets. They were goals, neatly placed on the road ahead. Outside the stadium, Melbourne buzzed as it always does during the Australian Open. Fans debated matches over coffee. Children clutched tennis balls, hoping for autographs. Life moved forward, indifferent yet generous. Eala stepped into that world with the same composure she carried on court. The loss stayed behind her, not as a weight, but as a reference point. For Filipino tennis fans watching from thousands of miles away, her attitude resonated deeply. They saw not just an early exit, but a young athlete modeling resilience. In a sport that often magnifies defeat, Eala offered a quieter, more enduring image, progress built patiently, confidence rooted in effort rather than outcome. She knows that careers are not defined by single tournaments. they are shaped by response. How do you wake up the next day? How do you train when no one is watching? How do you speak to yourself after a loss? These are the questions that decide longevity, not one scoreline in January. As the Australian Open continued without her name on the draw sheet, Eala returned to work. Somewhere between the practice courts and the gym, between reflection and repetition, she carried the lessons of Melbourne with her. Not as scars, but as tools. The sun would rise again on another court, in another city. There would be another chance to compete, to test herself, to surprise those who doubt and reassure those who believe. And when that moment comes, she will step forward with the same steady light in her eyes. Because an early exit does not end a journey. Sometimes, it simply reminds you why you started and how far you are still willing to go.